Hey, thanks for making it to Veterans Daily with Jay and Clay. We're glad you made it. We're going to jump into a few different topics here that might or might not affect you, but either way, it affects one of our brothers or sisters. So we appreciate you watching the video all the way through. It really does help the channel and helps to push out the information. And I'm going to also throw out there, like I do often, that I didn't pick these. Clay did. So, if you have anything to say about it, you can reference Clay in the comments. I'm just here for the ride. Thanks, Clay. Appreciate you.
Oh
And
yeah.
with that, I'm going to leave it to Clay to open us up here with the topics we're going to go over. But please hit the thumbs up and subscribe. Those are the two biggest things that you could do for us. We really appreciate it. And thank you to all you subscribers that have pushed us over the 10,000 mark for subscribers. It is fantastic to be there. And we're looking to passing the next milestones with you. Many hands make light work. So thank you. Clay, why don't you let us know what we're going to be talking about, whatever. You know what I mean.
Yeah.
Go.
Oh yeah. That's a beautiful intro. I need to get better at those for myself. But thank you, Jason. So we're gonna do Project 2025, everyone's favorite topic as of right now. Hopefully that goes well. I'm actually gonna pull it up and read some excerpts, but specifically on Project 2025, there's a VHA and a VBA portion. That's really what we're gonna focus on. Then we're gonna talk about the Major Richard Starr Act, which is another buzz piece of legislation floating around for those who were medically discharged. Then we're going to roll into Expediting Ratings Act. There's an official name. I'll get that to you here in a second. And then we have the VA Second Amendment Act protecting veterans' gun rights and what that actually looks like. And then if we have time at the end, we'll do some quick reacts. Some are funny, some not so funny. So with that, Jason, and I would like to start Project 2025 off. What I'm going to do is pull this up. I'm going to have this linked down below in the comments. So if you're watching this, something I always say on YouTube is it's one thing to get information from YouTube, but definitely check that source, check where it came from. And here it is, okay? Mandate for Leadership, Conservative Promise 2025. I don't really care about politics whatsoever, but what you do is you open this, you scroll down, and you'll find different sections. And chapter 20 is the Department of Veteran Affairs. I'm showing you this so you know how to navigate these waters. And it talks about the mission statement of the VA, the overview, the history of the VA. We're going to skip this for now. And then we're really going to hone in on the VHA side of the house. There's the VHA topics, and you can read all of this for yourself. And then right below that is the VBA side of the house. And that's how this thing is structured. Okay. Now, Jason, what I want to really point out for here is this statement. And I've made some videos about this on my channel, but what I really want to highlight is this is what concerns me most. And I would love to hear your opinion on this as well. But it says the VA SRD, so the VA Schedule of Rating Disabilities, 38 CFR, okay, has assigned disability ratings to a growing number of health conditions over time. And then it says some are tenuously related or wholly unrelated. Tenuously means barely connected. Okay. That barely came from service, yet you were service connected. And then you have wholly unrelated. What bothers me is the next statement talks about the further growth in presumptive service connected medical conditions. Hello, the PACT Act is what they're referring to here. And it pursued by Congress and VSOs, Agent Orange, burn pits, obviously PACT Act. And it says this right here. This is what bothers me. Increases in mandatory VBA spending in recent years. To me, Jason, this indicates that someone, some think tank, someone who has influential pull is saying, hey, the VA is spending way too much money on conditions that are barely service connected. And then the mentions of the PACT Act really what bothers me about Project 2025 above everything else. And there's a lot to it. But with the VBA side of the house, this is what bothers me most. And I would like your opinion on this specific excerpt just to get us started on Project 25.
Yeah, absolutely, Clay. Thank you. So here's the thing. Project 2025 is not a publication from any government organization, any political figure, any really political party. Now, although it is geared toward a specific political party, it's not a political party that developed it. Just throwing that part out there. So it is completed through the Heritage Foundation, is where this comes from. Now, I don't want to take anything too lightly, because that's how you go, well, how'd this happen, right? Mm-hmm. Well, how did Germany become under Hitler, right? It was little pieces at a time. Next thing you know, here we are. So you have to take these things with some sort of relevance, so you can have logical and thoughtful opinions and express those to your elected leadership. So I'm going to open it up with that. Now, again, I'm not going to lean either way politically with this, even though it is a conservative blueprint, they're calling it, or what have you. Mm-hmm. The way I look at this is Project 2025 is a suggestion, okay, for elected officials to pick and pillage from, to then work with and from. Does somebody have to take it all? No, absolutely not. Your elected officials need to know where you stand on VA issues, right? Quiet mouths don't get fed. So, or you're going to get fed something you don't want, like what Clay's alluding to, that's kind of buried in this Project 2025. Now, to me, this is no different than the Congressional Budget Office complaining about how much the VA spends and ways that they can cut down the costs. It's kind of the same thing. Look, I'm not going to lie. There's a lot of money that's spent on veterans. And mm-hmm. we, as veterans, can all agree. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that, the military might not have caused this specific condition, but that's not what the rules say, right? The rules say if it showed up within you during your time, we got your back because you signed the dotted line. So, for example, and I'll say it for myself, my migraines that I have are service connected because I never had migraines before, and then I started getting them when I was in the Marine Corps. I annotated it during my time in, so I didn't know that I was creating the nexus, right? Thank God I mentioned it, but because I mentioned it during my time in service, I was able to actually get that service connected. What this thing sounds like, or that it's alluding to, is maybe we should reconsider moving forward. Maybe we eliminate things that are not directly service related, okay? Take away the manifesting during your time in service and just show me that the military caused it. So fine, you were sniffing jet fuel for the last 4 years and you have migraines. Okay, maybe there's a correlation there. But if you were a desk worker typing away doing paralegal work, probably not. So you probably wouldn't. And then you have to worry about secondaries, right? Maybe they're like, nope, you get the first crack and that's it. There's no longer secondaries. And that would free up a ton of money on the VA side and really reduce that. Am I a fan of that? No, I think that's a horrible idea. And that's coming from the perspective of, my guess, if something like that were to ever happen, which I highly doubt, by the way, that it would go that extreme. I highly doubt it, but it's important we talk about it for awareness, so that way people know and they don't slip something in like they did in Virginia with the education stuff, right? Out of nowhere, right? The more that people know, the more that people are held accountable. So I will say, though, Clay, that I think that a big piece that we need to consider here is, even though it wouldn't affect us today, most likely, if it went into effect, because we would most likely be grandfathered in, right, on previous law, but the moving forward folks would be screwed. And that's not right, right? I already feel that way with the sleep apnea change that's looming out there for folks, right? Those types of changes are dramatic and traumatic And I don't think that it's fair to our current servicemen and women. So that's kind of my opening on that, Clay. I'll kick it back to you.
Oh yeah, I agree with everything that you've said. And something I do want to point out, and this is going to sound super political, just food for thought. I don't care about that stuff, okay? But recently we see the Biden administration, to include the VA, really push the 1 millionth PACT Act claim. And then now we see language, to me, when I read it, it indicates they want to change the rules for presumptive connections for the easy ones. And if I had to take a wild guess, it would be rhinitis, sinusitis, and asthma would be the big three, right? For instance, right, you're 45 years old, you went to Iraq, you have a stuffy nose, you have polyps, you get bad allergies, you had those allergies when you were a kid. Is that service connected? The answer is yes, because of PACT Act, but according to this, it would make it harder. And that's really what comes to my mind, at least, right? We see one side pushing PACT Act. This, to me, is the complete opposite. It's definitely some political animosity there I'm not a fan of whatsoever. No, I don't support this at all. But I think the way you explain it, Jason, is spot on. And just the idea, here's my big takeaway from Project 2025. No, it's not policy. No, it's not law. It's just recommendations. But I will say this. Should veterans be concerned about veteran-related recommendations from a group of people that have some serious influential power in our government? I think so, right? I don't have an answer for what that looks like. You know, if you're going to call your district congressman, House, Senate, whatever that looks like for you, ask them if they support the VBA recommendations from Project 25. I don't know if that would do anything, okay? But when I read this is really what concerns me. Out of all of the VHA and the VBA side of Project 2025, just the mention of saying the VA spending too much, here's these PACT Act presumptive claims, it's got to go. Implied there, paraphrase. Okay?
Right.
That's what I'm not happy with that at all.
And Clay, look, here's the thing. Here's the thing, right? So implied, sure, right? Pointing out, like the Congressional Budget Office does.
Yeah.
Look, you're spending a shit ton of money over here. Just saying, here's some ways that you could curb that and still focus on the most impacted veterans, right? Mm-hmm. So to kind of put it in that light, and again, I don't think that this would ever take traction and go anywhere, but again, you know, you got to be careful, right? It could be a slippery slope. The other aspect, though, is that there were things that were written in there, and I can't remember them off the top of my head, where it's like, well, yeah, that makes sense. Yes, you should do that. Like, yeah, that needs to happen.
Yeah,
I don't even. Go ahead.
I'll cut this part out.
Thanks. Did
you freeze there?
Or, I did.
Are you good?
No, I'm good now.
Okay, you're good. Did you say what you need to say?
Well, I was just going to say that, you know, the thing that we need to remember here is that there's also good suggestions. I mean, look, nothing's a complete 100%. This whole thing sucks, right? There are some good recommendations in there that actually make sense. Like, oh, well, yeah, that makes sense. So again, I think that it's more of a recommendation of which then the lawmakers would then be able to look at and go, okay, yeah, my and from a self-preservation point, which is all of these elected officials, right? They spend 10% on the job, doing the job, and 90% I need to get reelected. So they're going to look at, okay, well, what's going to get me reelected? What's going to get me fired, right? And let me try to do some good things for the people in my constituency. And I mean, hopefully that's the way that they're thinking. But if you raise your voices in your constituency to your congressional member, back to what you were saying about, you know, is it really going to matter or not? It doesn't have to be Project 2025 direct related. It could be, hey, I just want to voice my support for veterans, and you better do great things for veterans. I just wanted to let you know, no, I don't need a response. Thank you. And you could do that in an email. You could do that in a phone call after hours. You could swing by their office and talk to one of their staffers. Every single congressional office has a staffer who handles stuff with the VA and veterans and military stuff. And you could talk with that person. And I absolutely recommend you do, so they know that you're watching, right? Mm-hmm. Hey, I just wanted to stop by, introduce myself. I'm a veteran constituent, and I hope that the congressional member does great things for veterans. And off you go. It's just one more notch that's helping us be a louder voice. Because Clay, I'll tell you what, there's many groups out here in the U.S., and there's a lot of groups that are smaller than veterans, but I tell you what, they're a lot louder than we are. And they get all kinds of things that they want. So if you, not even that we want new stuff, leave our stuff alone. You still need to talk, right? You still need to let people know we're watching you and we're here. And not only are we, but our spouse, our adult children, everybody who's impacted by us, right? Our sphere of influence. So anyway, I'm off my high horse.
No. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up one of the good things that you had mentioned, at least how we interpret, or how I interpret good. I assume you would think this is good too, Jason. But right here, it says first, so this is on the VHA portion of Project 2025. It says first and foremost, a Veterans Bill of Rights is needed so that veterans and VA staff know exactly what benefits veterans are entitled to receive, with a clear process for the adjudication of disputes. Basically saying, hey, VA, you can't make up your own rules, okay? And veterans have their Bill of Rights, just like we have the Second Amendment. Everyone knows what that is, okay? Amendments, constitutional rights. This would be like the VA's version of those rights for veterans. That, I think, is a solid way to get veterans and the VA kind of on the same playing field, because right now it's a little, skewed. Not the case. Yeah, it's a little not the case unless you have like an attorney, and then you're paying out of pocket for companies, or you're paying out of pocket for medical opinions, nexus letters, all that jazz. This kind of sets the standard. I think that's a good thing out of Project 2025. There are many things, and I want to gloss over the VHA side just because we did mention it, Jason. And the VHA side looks good and bad, in my opinion. One of them is Project 2025 essentially wants to privatize the Veteran Healthcare Administration, or add a private supplement to the VHA, which I'm conflicted on. Personally, just as my belief system, I believe in the private world. But I also understand that when it comes to contracts and money, that gets skewed in about a second and a half. Who's getting paid? Why is that company getting paid over this company? You look at government contracting, it's never a clear-cut story, okay? It's always someone always knows someone who's on the inside. So there's definitely room for the good old conspiracy theory, right? When it comes to privatizing anything. But at the same time, I am a fan of private healthcare, right? I mean, look at VA disability claims. Yes, 1,000%, I would argue private healthcare is better for VA disability claims. Not that you shouldn't go to VH healthcare, but when it comes to evidence, diagnosis, stuff like that, private healthcare is going to be the way to go. So I'm kind of conflicted in that. I want to get your last thoughts on Project 2025, at least for the healthcare side of the house, and then we'll go ahead and transition.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad you brought that up. So, not too long ago, however many years, 6 years ago or whatever, the Mission Act came out. The Mission Act really put the screws in to the VA for veterans to be able to utilize community care in a very solid fashion, right? Very check this box, check that box, boom, go. And made it a very systematic approach to it. And I feel, here I am with my feelings, I feel, based on comments that I've read, that the VA may be eroding some of the Mission Act's intentions, making it more difficult for veterans to obtain community care. Now, through Project 25, again, it sounds crazy when you talk. It sounds like it's a conspiracy thing and this weird through the recommendations from the Heritage Foundation for 2025, they recommend really revamping the Mission Act and really bringing the VA back to accountability, back to being accountable for allowing veterans to utilize community care. Okay, that's the private healthcare world. They got to get paid somehow, so it's going to be from federal money, right? Contracts, all that good stuff. So then the question then becomes, can we really have our cake and eat it too? Yeah. So you have one side that goes, well, if everybody wants to go get community care, well, then there's no reason for a VA, so they shrink or disappear, right? As far as healthcare is concerned. Or we force veterans to get care at the VA, whether they want it there or not. You get zero choice. You got to go to the VA. And now you have a built-in clientele. Imagine if everybody, you know, if they were mandated to go to your restaurant, right? You'd have a busy restaurant. Doesn't matter how good your food is, it could suck, right? Mm-hmm. So I think the problem here is that there's a substantial, right? It's not a small number. There's a substantial amount throughout the nation, right? It's geographic, I think. I think that some VA systems are better than others as far as the healthcare aspects concerned. But I think the question is really, what can the VA do to provide better customer service, a better customer experience, right? Better wait times, better results, whatever it is, right? Be a business for a minute, like your customers, right? Your patients could go somewhere else. And let's bring that up and make people want to come to you, right? I would say, to double down on what you said, Clay, that when it comes to any sort of assistance with your claim, the VA is not helping you, right? Yeah. And what I mean by that is, oh, you know, I need a nexus letter for that. I'm sorry, no, not going to do that. Oh, okay. Well, can you help me with this public-facing VA document called a DBQ? Can you fill this out for me? No, can't do that. Well, okay, great. So now, although I'm a rated veteran in the VA healthcare system who can get all my care here, I'm now forced to go to the community and pay out of pocket to have some other doctor fill these things out for me. Where's that? That doesn't even make any sense. And guess what? You're going to have two groups. A group of people that can go, you know what, screw it. I can afford it. And now I'm pissed off and I hate the VA, but I'm going to go do it and I'm going to pay for it because I can afford it. Then you have those that are like, hey, I don't have 2 nickels to rub together. We're eating bologna sandwiches every day. I can't afford to go pay $400 to see a doctor to help me figure this out. So now I'm just at the whim of this horrible system, the VA. And that's just not fair to me. Where's the equity, right? Where's the equity everybody screams about, right? There is none, right? Because the person who's shafted is the person who doesn't have the money, who people should be taking care of and making sure they're squared away. So I think that the VA needs to, and anybody who says that veterans need to only go to the VA, I think that the VA needs to take a step back, look in the mirror, and anybody saying that that's what should happen needs to take a look in the mirror and say, we need to treat the VA like a business, and we need to provide outstanding customer service, a veteran experience that's bar none, and we need to raise that level up and provide the services that our veterans are seeking, period. And if you don't do that, well, then guess what? You should have a choice to go somewhere else. Mm-hmm. You, Clay. I'm starting to get weird.
I felt that, dude. I am happy and mad at the same time.
Yeah. Let's do it.
No, that was I mean, I couldn't agree more. And that you did a really good job of like explaining how I'm conflicted when it comes to privatizing the VA. But then again, the downsides with it. And it all comes down to this. It's the veteran, right? The veteran needs to be the focal point, not really anything else. It's, hey, VA business, are you providing for the veteran? And in a lot of cases they are, in a lot of cases they're not, right? And we can't just look at either or. We have to look at the whole picture. but absolutely solid. I would like to transition to the Major Richard Starr Act. And very, very, very brief overview. It would essentially allow those who are medically retired without 20 years, so we're talking below 20 years of service now, those who medically retire cannot receive both VA disability and that military retirement. Okay, it's not an either or thing. It kind of offsets itself, sort of like the combat related special compensation. It's very, 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 very similar to. So I'll share, and I'm going to put this in dummy terms so everyone can understand. One of my good friends did 14 years of service, was medically discharged, and he rates he's 100% service connected. Okay, and he is not eligible for any of those military retirement benefits. Although he would have stayed in and did his 6 more, it was actually like 5.5 more years. And then you have those who are at 18 years who medically retired who don't get that retirement, right? They still get the VA disability, but they don't achieve that retirement. And Major Richard Starr Act would basically say, hey, relax, let's take that out. Let's not penalize a veteran who was medically discharged. That's pretty much what Major Richard Starr Act is for. The VFW did, in my opinion, this is where VSOs really, really shine, that no one really talks about, is their proactiveness at the Subcommittee of Veteran Affairs in front of Congress, talking about things like the Major Richard Starr Act, the Dole Act. I mean, there are tons of other pieces of legislations that, Jason, I know you cover all the time. But, this is something that the VFW and other VSOs as well are really, really pushing, starting from about summer of last year, I believe. And they really, really started ramping the efforts up in fall of 2023. Jason, I'm going to kick it over to you.
So one, there's a big distinction between medically discharged and medically retired. Okay. Mm-hmm. We're talking about medically retired here. Typically there's a bunch of factors, but typically somebody with a shorter time frame is going to end up getting medically discharged. Okay. Somebody with a longer time frame where it's very clear they were trying to get to their 20-year mark is most likely going to be medically retired. So we're talking about medically retired here. They're receiving a retirement from the DoD. This affects me zero. Right? Like, it doesn't change my life in any way, but I am in full support of this. It doesn't make any sense to me why you would have a retirement check and not be able to get your disability, right? It's two separate systems, two different things. If the DoD decided that you're retired, then you are, right? So the only difference is being that you didn't make your 20 years, and that shouldn't be a factor on whether or not you receive it. So for those that know, Major Richard Starr had this problem, right? So he ended up getting medically retired and had worked with Congress and really championed it, him and his wife. Then he passed away, and his wife kind of carried that baton on, working with Congress to try to get this thing to pass. It has stalled out for no other way to bring it up. And now let me back up a little bit. About, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 months ago, I called DC and I spoke with a staffer there, and they told me then that, we're trying to see if we can get it over the finish line. And if for some reason we can't get it to go, we're going to look to get it shoved into another vehicle and try to get it passed with a bunch of other stuff. Cool. That's a great idea. And that is exactly what's happening now. There has been another kind of a reviving of the Major Richard Starr Act to include it as an amendment in the NDAA, our National Defense Authorization Act. And my suggestion here is that anybody who supports this, I'm not telling you have to, right? But if you do support this, you need to reach out to your congressional members, both on the House and Senate side, and let them know that you absolutely support this. You should do it. Your spouse should do it. Your children who are adults should do it. Your parents should do it. Anybody you know, you should ask them to contact their congressional representative. And again, it's super easy, right? If you don't like people and you don't want to see anybody, talk to anybody in face-to-face, send them an email, right? At least you're doing something. Send them an email. Swing by their office if you don't mind. You could swing by their office, knock on the door if you want to have a face-to-face. You can call, talk to them. You can call after hours, leave them a voicemail. You can actually, if you're passionate and it affects you or a family member and you can articulate it well, you can request a meeting, ask the scheduler for your congressional member to schedule a 10-minute meeting regarding this specific issue, right? Ask them. They work for you, right? Make them work for you. Let them know that you're watching them. So that's my takeaway on it. And I'm glad that there is this additional push to get it into the NDAA. I hope they do get it added in there as an amendment to it. And, you know, at the end of the day, you know, the way that it's working now, again, just to kind of recap on what you said, just to use easy numbers, let's say that you are a medically retired, okay, not medically discharged, medically retired, you did whatever, 17 years to paint the picture. 17 years, you got injured, they're like, sorry, you can't stay here anymore, sayonara, you're medically retired. Here's your retirement check, which, oh, by the way, will be less because of your time in service. So already you're being dinged because you didn't get to reach the amount of years you wanted to, by the way. So let's just, for pretend, say that your retirement is $3,000 a month, right? So you get this retirement check of $3,000 a month, and you think to yourself, okay, I'm going to file for VA disability because I got injured, right? And so you file, and let's say you get $1,000. What they do is they go, okay, we're going to offset your retirement. We're going to take $1,000 off of your retirement, which can be taxable, right? So taxable income. And now you got $2,000 of taxable retirement income. And we're going to slide over that $1,000 we took, and we're going to call that VA compensation because that's how much you were going to get rated for, $6,000 a month. But that's not taxed. So look, you're saving money. You're coming out ahead, right? You can go buy a whatever you're going to buy for whatever you're saving, a sleeve of golf balls, right? So you're not saving much. And so I think that it's wrong. I think that it was somewhat of an oversight when they did put the legislation in place for the retirees that are over 50% rated with 20 years plus. I think they just kind of forgot about medically retired folks with less than 20 years. And here we are, right? It affects probably less than 40,000, I think, is the number that I saw. It might be 30 or 40,000. And even then, the way that vets work, right? For whatever reason, we don't go after our benefits and claim what we are owed. So that probably won't even be 100% of those folks reaching out for this stuff. So anyway, back to you, Clay.
To add to your numbers, right? That person with 17 years could have re-enlisted at the 16-year mark. Another 4 years would have brought them to 20. They're medically retired, and all of a sudden, they don't get what they've worked for, as if they were. So two scenarios: not medically retired and then medically retired, right? So that person at that 17-year mark pushes the medically retirement as far as they can to hit that 20. Boom. Now they get their military retirement, assuming they're 50% or above, which they likely will be, right? And now they get both. Same exact scenario, except for that person just can't do it. All of a sudden, they're getting dinged. And I don't, not being fair would be an understatement. Go ahead. Yeah.
And you know what? You bring up a good point with that. So we talk about this often, and sometimes it's just kind of an in between the lines thing that we're talking about. But that culture that the military has of don't go to medical, don't document anything, nothing's wrong with you. So my God, so it's just reinforcing that, you know what, you are falling apart and so injured, but you got to hide it and limp around and make it worse. Because you're at 17 years and you could end up getting out because of that. So it forces you to hide it some more, right? Which is, I mean, what an environment, man. It's just, it's a little bit, it's toxic, Clay. It's toxic.
Yeah, I would love to see some data on either VA providers or C&P examiners that did evaluate a condition from service and had the question, how the heck did you make it, 20 years? How
Oh
the
yeah.
heck did you make it the last 10 years? I
Right.
would love to see that data to kind of show the don't go to medical
Right.
culture. That wasn't even something I even thought of, but I think this is a prime example of saying, hey, if you go to medical, you're not going to get, your retirement check and your VA check. That's life changing, right?
Right. Well, your whole life has
I'm
been
at 18
dedicated.
years. I'm not saying anything.
No.
Yeah. So it's man, that's insane. But transitioning from the Major Richard Start Act to the Expedited Ratings Act. What I'm going to do for this one, because this one is lesser known, but essentially, let me go ahead and pull it up. Veterans can be rated faster when it comes to, let's say your knee is service connected, you get surgery on that knee, you're in the hospital for 21 days, whatever the case may be, you can get that temporary 100% rating. That would fall under this here. So expediting temporary ratings for Veterans Act. And really, Jason, what this goes to show, it's automation process, right? And so it's kind of saying, hey, boom, you're in the system. Here's your temporary 100% with little to no work that needs to be done. That's really what this act is for. And it gives 3 scenarios here. So medical evidence is obtained from its corporate data warehouse. VA employees continue to determine eligibility. And then 3, claims may be processed manually if the evidence of record is not sufficient to decide the claim. So it's essentially, acting as a support base for those veterans who are absolutely in need of that temporary 100% VA disability rating. Now, that's just one. There are other types of temporary ratings, but that's really what the Expediting Temporary Ratings for Veterans Act is all about. And again, this is coming straight from the VFW. The VFW is very, very, very large into pushing, not pushing, lobbying for veteran legislation. And if you go down, it looks at, does the VFW support this bill? Yes or no? Who are sponsors of this bill? We have Rep. Rosendale. You'll see him in the subcommittee a lot. And it also shows you actions of where this is at. So subcommittee consideration and markup session held. That was 7/19. And you can kind of go all the way down to see the history of what that looks like. And so the HR 196 Expediting Temp Ratings for Veterans Act, absolutely solid. Okay. This bill requires Department of Veteran Affairs to modify its IT systems to provide for the automatic processing of claims for temporary disability ratings for specified veterans. And then it goes to show who those are. So those who have a service-connected disability that requires hospital treatment or observation for a period in excess of 21 days. Just like Jason said earlier, does this affect me? No, it does not, right? Personally, it does not affect me whatsoever, but I am all in support of HR 196, and it's not even a question, okay? It's not even a question in my mind if I would support HR 196. Again, it does not affect me whatsoever. My knees aren't service connected. I do have a service connection for my back. I'm not going to need back surgery anytime soon. But if I did need back surgery and I was in the hospital for 21 days or more, this act right here with that automated system, assuming the automated system worked, which is a whole other deal. Automated systems in the VA have failed time and time again, specifically with the National Work Queue for disability claims. But that's what this act really, really, really does look at, is automating that temporary 100% VA disability for those with, generally speaking, musculoskeletal surgeries, right? Like your knees, your shoulders, your back. maybe you're having neck surgery, anything like that. It can absolutely be used for other disabilities, but the overwhelming majority of those are going to be your musculoskeletal conditions that need surgery, right? Your knees, your back, and your shoulders.
Yeah, Clay, you bring up a great point. And with the back issue or whatever it is, it could be a knee issue, it could be anything, that if you're rated for that and you go in and like you said, it's the automated thing, bam, VHA talks to VBA, boom, it's granted. Here's the key. Usually you can get approved 1 to 3 months worth of that temporary 100%, which, remember, I mean, this is no joke. If you're only rated 20 or 30% for the condition, that's a small amount of money per month. So if you move to that 100%, even if it's temporary, if you're married with a child, I mean, that's $4,100 tax-free per month in your pocket, can help you through that time frame. Usually it's 1 to 3 months worth of time frame. If for some reason, here's my question, if for some reason you've been approved, right? Let's say that we'll just say it's 3 months. You got 3 months, something major sort of surgery, you need a lot of healing time. They want to see you slowly work it, a little bit of physical therapy, nothing too much, and they're tracking you 3 months. Then your doctor says, hey, it's been, 2.5 months now, right? I think we need to kick this out another couple months. You had something happen. We need 2 more months. On the temporary 100% side, you can request additional months, but will this also be automatic? Will the system still talk? Will they be able to increase it from there, or is this going to be another sort of a stumbling block, if you will? Clay.
Oh yeah, I mean the VA's automated systems, I don't want to bash the VA. This isn't a bashing VA video. It's very easy sometimes. The VA historically is known for their automated information systems to fail, right? Most recently, the National Work Queue had thousands of claims. I want to say it was a little bit over 10,000 claims that were ready for decision, but the National Work Queue never shot it out to the regional offices. And that was solely because of an automated process. So that sucks. It's definitely not acceptable, right? But you would hope the VA's IT systems, their information technology systems, would be able to extend the temporary 100% benefits in that instance. And just to give some food for thought here, I think people overlook specifically knee conditions at like 10 or 20%. Because let's say you get, you're 22 years old, 26 years old, you get that knee service connected. 30 years down the road, you fall, whatever, you're in a car wreck, or maybe it just deteriorates over time and you need surgery. 1, get the surgery. Healthcare is important. 2, there's a temporary 100% rating for that. And 3, in the 38 CFR says, hey, if you had surgery, you cannot go lower than, I want to say 30% off the top of my head for knees. And each kind of musculoskeletal system after surgery has its own residual, no less than 30%. I'm saying 30 as a placeholder. I think that's what it is for knees. And so that's you have two knees at 30%. That's solid.
Yeah. Oh, and I think that's a good future video. We need to dig that up and go through that on a few different things, because people are always asking, what if I go get a surgery, right? And this will take off some of that pressure. So I think that we need to remember that for folks. I think that also just in that kind of same vein is, and I've seen this happen. This is a true story. I don't remember which leg it is, so now it's not true anymore. But whatever, it's close enough to true. One of the legs had a service connection, right? Bad knee, bad hip, whatever, right? Walking up the stairs, leg gives out, falls down, jacks up his other side of his body. Secondary conditions, all of them. And that's it. So secondary conditions, really think about those, whether it's because of an injury that you incurred because of your service connected, right? Like the fall down the stairs, or just over time, right? You're going to favor one side more than the other. I mean, you should have seen me hobbling around today. Geez, I slept funny or something. And so now it's like I don't know. I feel like I'm 90 hobbling around. So So you're going to favor one side, right? And then after a while, that one side is going to go too. So anyway, all that to say is that keep your eyes open, and sometimes those ratings that will take you to that 100% temporary can also take you to higher ratings overall. Because
Absolutely.
obviously, Clay, that anybody who's going after a temporary 100 is less than 100. So now you have other opportunities that could be sneaking up on you.
Absolutely. I think the secondary is absolutely key. And that's, I even overlooked that a lot of the time. So I'm definitely glad you brought that up. And then transitioning to the last policy that I do want to review is the Veterans Second Amendment Protection Act. This is definitely that clickbaity type topic, but to my
This is an important one.
understanding, it is. Now full, I've said this on my channel before, so I'll say it here. Me personally, I believe in self-protection. I carry, right? So this would affect me, and I think it would affect a lot of veterans. But to my understanding, and I want you to correct me if I'm wrong, Jason, is when you submit for mental health and you need a fiduciary, that is when the VA will start to consider, that's like the threshold, right? Once you say, hey, I can't manage money, I can't manage anything, that's when the VA is like, okay, let's take a look at this, right? And then they may notify that state level resource. It might be federal, that I do not know. But there's a system called NICS, so you get a NIC tick is what it's called. And that system, so if I go to my local dealer and I want to get a Walther PDP, right, a 9 mil, and I'm going to get a tick in the NICS system, and then they will say, you're back, right? No. That's my understanding. That is my Barney style understanding. Yeah. And so can we talk about just Second Amendment and veterans?
Yeah. So this is how I like to start it, Clay. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Look, whether it's your First Amendment, your Second, your Fifth, I don't care. When you start taking people's rights away, you better have the authority to do so, right? This is a bureaucratic agency who has zero power to do that, first of all, although they are, right? So really, what's going on here is there's been a lot of talk about really removing the VA from having the ability to just arbitrarily go, we think this because of whatever, but we determined that you shouldn't. So we're going to report your information, and the NIC is the National Instant Criminal Background Check System. So the FBI system, so federal. So it goes into that federal, you're federally registered as a do not sell firearms. And oh, by the way, turn in all those firearms that you do have, right? So let's not forget that. If you try to take away anybody's rights, they would be up in arms. And I get it, the Second Amendment rights, there's people on two sides of that, and which is everybody should look, it's so weird to me how, okay, well, everybody pretty much believes in First Amendment rights or the Fifth Amendment, right? And all the other ones. But when it comes to the Second, it's this weird, like, I don't know, thing going on. And it's like, nope, it's one of our rights and it should be treated the same. So no matter, pick your favorite right, and that's how you should feel about all of them, because that's what they're there for. So anyway, the Second Amendment thing with the VA, I think has gone kind of unnoticed for a long time. And what happens is loosely, it depends who you hear it from, right? So some say that as soon as you are assigned a fiduciary to manage your funds, right? Because you spend too much time at the casino, or you go get too many massages, or whatever you do with your money, and you get assigned a fiduciary, automatically they do it. So some people say that's what happens, that they automatically just send off this your information to the FBI. And then if you hear it from the VA says, well, no, it has to hit this, and we look into this, and we look into that, and are they a danger to themselves or others, and blah, 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 blah. And I don't know if I fully believe that. I think the truth lies somewhere in between, right? And the reality is, in my opinion, this is just me, totally not, I mean, I have zero education in legal anything. I have no legalese, okay? All my education is, well, I don't even remember it. So it doesn't even really count, right? I have a master's in HR management, but I don't even really remember any of it. So it's like, it doesn't even count. So I have like a high school education here that I'm working with. And so the bottom line is that I believe that a veteran, anybody, should have their due process, right? They should be able to have somebody of some sort of legal authority determine whether or not, through some sort of, here's proof on both sides, and somebody gets to make a decision, right? Some sort of a real process, instead of the VA just going, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Too much time at the casino, Clay. We're going to have to reel you in, and no guns for you, right? Don't need you taking that in the casino if you lose, right? Yeah. So I've been weird about this thing ever since I heard it. I don't like it. I don't like that the VA has that kind of power as some bureaucrat, some mid-level person, right? It's not the VA secretary who's sitting there going, let me make a decision here. It's somebody way down from him who's saying sayonara to your rights. We're talking, forget about guns, okay? We're talking about rights. Your rights as a United States citizen ripped away from you from the VA. What if I said, guess what? The DMV is going to decide whether or not, right, your Department of Motor Vehicles, wherever it is going to decide whether or not you get to keep your First Amendment rights. You acted funny when you were in there. The line was a little long, and now they put in a request to have your First Amendment rights taken away from you, and you have to wear a funny shirt that says you can't talk, right? Everybody would be like, what the hell is that? The VA should not decide if somebody gets to have a gun or not. That's not their lane. Stay in your lane. Focus on giving me good benefits. Focus on giving me quality health care in a timely fashion with bar none customer service, and focus on giving me benefits in a much earlier time frame than how long it's currently taking. How about focus on those things and leave the gun stuff to the legalese people? That's my take on it, Clay. Oh, I will say this. Let me throw this out there to you.
Yeah.
Unless you have something to say. Do you have something to say yet?
No, I'm just gonna.
Okay.
If you're watching this right now, drop it below in the comments if you want Jason to run for president in 2024.
Right. Yeah.
Go ahead,
So, no, I don't want to get my ears shot, please. Thank you.
Yeah.
So, dude, I mean, I thought Reagan was the last one. And remember, so there was like 2 months later, gunshot rings out, right? And Reagan goes, missed me.
Yeah.
It just keeps going. Anyway, so, all right. Here's where we're at with this Second Amendment thing. Okay, this is horrifying, by the way. Okay, the House of Representatives is saying, hey, look, we don't want you to do that anymore. We want veterans to have due process for their rights as an American. Okay, and oh, by the way, VA, we would like you to let the FBI know that you kind of erroneously reported people on not enough information in the past. Okay, like, let's try to make right what you did wrong and let people have their due process. Okay, and then figure it out from there. Sure, there might be some in there that shouldn't have firearms, but let that process be held the way it should be. I'm fine with that. This is in an article on the Stars and Stripes, and I'm just going to read this one tiny paragraph. It's 4.5 lines. At issue is legislation called the Veterans Second Amendment Restoration Act that would direct the VA secretary to issue a formal notice that it acted without authority or court determination that the veterans posed a danger to themselves or others when submitting their names to the FBI National Instant Criminal Background Check System. Okay, now here's the horrifying part. The horrifying part is that the agency, got to read this one to you, okay, and then I'll be done. And I want to get your thoughts, Clay. A VA official said this week Okay, this week, the beginning of July 2024, a VA official said this week at a House Veterans Affairs Committee hearing that the agency will not comply with proposed legislation that directs the agency to notify the Attorney General that it acted inappropriately by seeking to end veterans' gun rights when they were determined unable to manage their benefits. If you can't manage your benefits, you can't own a gun, period. We're standing by that, is the VA's stance. What are your thoughts, Clay?
I think the answer is no. I mean, I can't disagree with the VA more than anything. And there's so many levels of wrong here. First of all, VA does what Congress says. One, they just said, nope, we're not going to do that. Okay, which is just weird. Like that relationship is just very, very weird. The VA is in service of the veteran when it comes to healthcare and benefits. That's it. Like you said, it's no adjudication process for rights, for legal anything outside of healthcare and benefits, and it's not their place. There's so many levels of wrong there. I really feel like if I say no too many times, the libertarian, Eastern Kentucky in me is just going to sprout out, and then the YouTube channel will get canceled. But my one response is no, right? That's not what the VA does. The VA is supposed to be veteran centric and provide health care and benefits to veterans.
I want to see you with blue paint on your face, screaming freedom.
Yeah.
I can't wait.
Absolutely. So that's the overview. That's kind of like the where we're at right now. And that subcommittee happened on July 10th, I want to say, if I'm right.
I think so.
Very, very
I can't
recent.
remember exactly.
Very, very recent. But
it was recent.
The Veterans Second Amendment Protection Act, okay, which is essentially what Jason and I have been saying, but the opposite. So specifically, and I'll read this highlighted portion here. The bill prohibits the VA from transmitting personally identifying information of a veteran or a beneficiary to the NICS system. That's the federal, hey, you can't buy a gun system, solely on the basis that such a veteran or beneficiary has an appointed fiduciary to manage their benefits. That's what it says. But according to that subcommittee, even if this is passed, the VA is going to say, nah, we're not going to do that, right? I don't know what worries me more. The VA telling the subcommittee, nah, how did that conversation take place? Or the VA doing an adjudication process on the legal side of the house to strip away a veteran's rights? I don't know what bothers me more, because both are objectively wrong according to U.S. law. And it's insane to me. Myself specifically, I have a mental health rating. I don't need a fiduciary. Okay. But in the context of the VA, if they believed I did and I didn't have one, or if they believe I shouldn't own a weapon, all of a sudden I don't have a weapon. No. Not that I can't purchase any. Now I'm on some list. I don't want to go too crazy here, right? But I'm on some list, and now all my weapons I do have magically disappeared in our boating accident last week. So it's like,
yeah,
right?
Yeah. Oh darn. I'm sorry for you, Clay. That sucks.
That's all I have on the Second Amendment Act, Jason, unless you have any final thoughts on any of the policies that we had discussed.
Contact your congressional member and tell them that VA should give veterans their due process.
Absolutely. Due process is the key here. And transitioning to that, Jason, let's do one react for this episode. There's one that really stands out, and I'm going to go ahead and share my screen now. It's a very short video. It's 42 seconds long, but
perfect.
It's another podcast from the Cleared Hot podcast, and they're talking about Veteran Healthcare Administration. Let's go ahead and play this real quick.
Personally, this is me being bitter Betty. I think the VA is a pill mill. I think you go through and you just get pills.
It can be.
Yeah.
Not
for everybody. There are exceptions.
I've been known to talk shit about the VA from time to time. And what I don't do is a good job of painting the other side. There are a lot of people who've gotten fantastic care from the VA.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't make the news.
Yep.
But the 32 pill guy who eventually decides that he's going to start a pistol instead of brushing his teeth in the morning, that's going to make the news. And it's going to vilify the VA system writ large. And I don't know if the VA system deserves that necessarily.
They want to.
Personally, this is me.
Hold on. So that's it, right? And I'll talk my personal story here. I have my. I always keep this handy dandy. Okay, this is a bag of prescriptions. It's an entire bag. There's probably 20 prescriptions in here, just full of pills, all from the VA. And I will say this: I have gotten fantastic care from the VA personally. I do believe, again, personally, that the VA is way too quick to throw a pill on it, get you on a treatment plan, which can be good for some. I just don't think it's the end all be all answer. No, I'm not a medical professional, but I do know being doped, if I took all that, okay, I wouldn't be present with my wife and kids, right? I would be out of it. For instance, when I take sumatriptan, it puts me to sleep. If I take sumatriptan, I am out for at least a solid 6-7 hours. I would agree with both that VHA definitely gets a lot of bad rap from the press, from veterans in general. And I'd also agree with that I get fantastic care and the VA is a pill mill, right? So I'm on both sides of the fence here. Jason, I want to get your 2 cents on VHA specifically.
Yeah, I'm the same. I mean, I think that conventional medicine is kind of that way, and I think that the VA is even the VA is kind of a lagging indicator in some ways of what's happening. You don't really know because they're kind of always behind. So you might have more, I guess, naturopathic minded MDs who go, okay, look, this is your situation. This is the road we could go down if these other things don't work for you. Give these things a shot. Try this first, and then we'll circle back around and decide if you need to start taking all these crazy things. I think that the VA hasn't gotten there yet, and part of it is because it's federal government, right? I mean, look how long they're taking for, whether you agree with it or not. It's the mindset of this marijuana, right? So the conventional doctors in states where it is legal and either as recreational or medical, or in states where it's just legal for medical purposes, that's been around for a while now. It's not like it's this, whoa, what's happening thing. That's been a thing. And the VA is behind the curve on that. There's been plenty of, and again, it doesn't matter where you individually sit on this, right? It's outside of my wheelhouse. I mean, I didn't read any studies. I didn't do any studies. I didn't participate. Well, I participated in my own study when I was in high school and, before I joined the Marine Corps. But besides that, I don't really have a leg to stand on with it. But the point is that looking for alternative methods of treatment other than take all of these things that cause all these other things and keep you in some sort of a brain fogged state is probably the way that the VA should be thinking. What else can we do to address the issues at hand? So I think that there is some more. I think the VA is making some moves to be a little more that way. All this to say, Clay, yes, I agree. It's both things. I think that the VA is slowly starting to incorporate some other methods. There is some movement. A bill just passed somewhere in the Senate. It got moved forward in some subcommittee or something on allowing the VHA specifically, to basically have conversations about marijuana and I'm not sure how far it's going, but in the legal states, right? So where if it's legal in this state, the VA workers in that state, doctors, can then have that conversation and work with you as the veteran. So they are moving in that direction. I think that part of the onus has to be on the veteran themselves too. I mean, look, do you want to walk in and just get a handful of pills, or do you want to figure it out? If you want to, it's not always the easiest road, I'll tell you, right? Everybody wants a quick fix, sadly, right? Everybody wants to be able to press the buttons on the microwave and get what you need in 3 seconds. Going a more holistic-y or naturopathic type of a way is a longer road. And it takes a little more to get through it. And I think that sometimes people are going to be like, no, just give me some pills and I'll move on. And I want to keep eating the same way that I'm eating. And I want to keep doing the same things that I'm doing. And I'm hoping that the pill will mask some of the consequences of my actions, right? For example, I have ankylosing spondylitis, right? It's fun. And my joints, like every joint in my body, can just really almost debilitating ache so bad. And it's worse if I eat inflammatory foods. Go figure, right? So figure out what inflammatory foods are and then eliminate those. And then guess what? Your joint pain goes way down, and then all of a sudden that's okay. Or I could take a bunch of pills, right? So, but then I can't eat the things I want to eat. Right. So my tongue has a mind of its own, right? Man, I want to eat that, whatever it is, because it's delicious for 5 seconds, but then I pay the price. So I think some of the onus is on us, right, to figure it out. And some of it is on the VA just pushing and not giving any other avenue or way to deal with it.
Oh, yeah. I think my biggest concern of veteran healthcare, and I'm speaking from the perspective of a veteran who uses the VHA, okay? My biggest concern is VHA is extremely overwhelmed, especially in the last 2 years. PACT Act, there's a huge piece of PACT Act that's not disability. It's actually healthcare related. Millions and millions of veterans are now eligible for healthcare through the PACT Act alone. That's not to mention all the other avenues to VA healthcare. My biggest concern is VHA is overwhelmed. And whenever you see a provider, it's quick and easy to give them the pill to subsidize whatever that is, instead of actually work on the issue. The dieting is huge, Not once has VA recommended me to diet. I don't want to get on to my healthcare history, okay? But recently, I've been really dieting just for healthcare reasons. And that's not from the VA. That's just that's me not wanting to take a bag of pills, right? Is what that turns into. That's my biggest concern for VHA, is that they're overwhelmed. And because they are overwhelmed, they are essentially the pill mill. That's my biggest concern. I don't know if that's the case. However, that's my experience. Looking at that podcast, that very, very 42-second short, I feel like that's the experience of many, many veterans. Of those I talk to, my friends have the same experience. And so, that is, I think the pill mill is an underlying issue to something much larger. And I hope that's not the case, but I genuinely believe that is the case. And that's not good for veterans at all, right? And I think veteran healthcare, everyone wants to talk VA disability. No one wants to talk veteran healthcare. And it comes down to, you're going to have to do it yourself. And the honest answer is, people don't want to,
Right.
And that sucks. That's my 2 cents on that, Jason. Sorry to end on a bad note.
Yeah,
but it's not good at all.
Yeah, I think you touched on it though. I think you're right. I think that, and it's the same issue with the VSOs, right? You're overwhelmed, so therefore you're not proactive, so yeah, I mean, the VHA is understaffed. And for whatever reason, they think that eliminating 10,000 jobs is a great idea. And what are we left with? We're left with overworked and so who pays the price? The veteran, right? So yeah, they're getting the care, sure, but they're not getting the quality care. And that goes back to the why do veterans want to go to community care? Because they can go get quality care. They can actually have some bedside manner, have a high quality experience, and be able to get some real traction on their health care, and turn a corner in a positive way instead of, well, you're just kind of on pills and that's what it's going to be for the rest of your life. Just kind of accept that and pat you on the head, right? So I think you did. I think you nailed it, and that's a good point. And again, there's plenty of groups out there that are very loud. We need to be a little bit louder, I think. So
Absolutely.
Anyway,
yeah.
with that,
Yes.
I guess we'll end it, huh?
Yeah.
We
Okay. Go
good?
ahead. Yep.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, you do it.
Okay.
You
Yeah.
end it.
Yeah. So, hey, we covered Project 2025, right? The good and there's good pieces. There are indications of not so good, right? We talked about the Major Veterans Short Act, which I don't see a reason why veterans wouldn't be in favor of that personally. If you do have a reason you're not in favor, comment below. I would love to see just an opposing view, if there is one. We talked about the expedited ratings that IT, the information technology systems, for temporary ratings, which I think is absolutely solid, assuming the system works. That's a big if, right? And then the VA Second Amendment Act, that the VA themselves said they will not comply. I think that was the direct quote as well. And then we talked about the VHA being a pill mill. So with that, hit like, subscribe, comment below if you made it to the end. If you made it to the end, comment something off the wall like chicken butt or Stan the Man. Something about chicken and hens, and we'll definitely.
Right. Yeah. Hot wing contest, whatever it is.
Oh yeah. And with that, if we aren't helping each other, we're doing something wrong. That's not how it goes.
Perfect. Good enough. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. If I'm not helping myself, either are you. Whatever. There you go. Have a good one, man.